So good morning, everyone. This is MnCHOICES, office hours for Friday, February 2nd, 2024. My name is Teresa Vanderbed. I'm MnCHOICES training lead, and I'll be facilitating the conversation today. So on this slide are the folks who are in attendance with me today. When they answer questions, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves so you know the voices and the names together. But these are the folks who are on this call to assist with the questions that you have today. This session is being recorded. We use WebEx audio for you to listen to the session. We have you all muted. We will, like we have done in the past, you'll raise your hand to ask questions. We'll call on you and then unmute you. So I always start out with a few ground rules. We want to make sure that this call gives you what you need. And so all parties to the call, we're operating under an atmosphere of good intentions and respect. DHS staff who are participating in the call, we're really here to provide you information that your agency needs. And then for agency mentors attending the call, this is your chance to learn, ask questions. And again, we both will work together to be respectful. And the only other thing that we ask from you is that you refrain from asking questions that you've submitted on a help desk ticket, because the response you're going to get back from us is that we're still working on it. Please know sometimes your questions take coordination between several different subject matter experts or time in the application to figure out what's going on. We're working really diligently to make sure that we can answer your questions in a timely manner. So today, office hours is really to ask any of the questions on any of the three applications, the legacy applications, the M&A and MNSP applications, and the revised MnCHOICES application. This is really here for you to ask your questions so that you can bring them back to your agency, the answers. So our agenda is like our standing agenda always is: general updates, help desk updates. You can ask any questions you have about the two legacy applications, and then we'll move into a few slides on the revised MnCHOICES application, and then the rest of the time is open for you to ask questions. So let's start with general updates. I have just a couple, and I wanted to take a chance to do this. So for folks who are new mentors, you may not be aware that the Disability Services Division has a training archive where all these office hours slides and the PDFs and the videos are all kept. And so if you click on the link on your PDF or you go to this Disability Services Division page, you can get today's PDF. And then if you click on the PDF, you'll have it available to you. And also the recordings for the sessions are here. We're having them retain the last 6 months. And then after that, then they are removed from the list of trainings available. So I wanted to quick talk a little bit about mentors and the purpose of mentors, because it's about once a year that we do this. We to have an opportunity to back up and say, kind of how do we all work together? What does that look like? So I'm going to make this real brief but quick. So the purpose for mentors is to really help your lead agency. They serve as a communication between us and the agency. They support MnCHOICES users in your agency in the application, and they troubleshoot and answer technical questions for your staff. So what our hope is that mentors will gain an understanding of the technology so that they can answer and troubleshoot, as well as they will know the resources available and be able to point people to resources to answer questions. And so I just wanted to make sure, again, we have a lot of new mentors. I wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page. So mentors really are here to both gain understanding and to assist others in understanding and to troubleshoot. So if you haven't had a chance, if you're a new mentor and you haven't taken the new mentor training courses, I recommend that you do. The mentor resources page, it says updated on here, but when I talked to the e-learner yesterday, he was doing the final edits on it. If you go into it and it only says county link and not partner link, you'll either need to clear your cache and then go out of the browser and log back into the browser, or if you used your train link in Google, use it in Explorer, and then you'll be able to see the changes. So we updated it to include partner link information because the name changed. We added the link to CBSM page for the LTSS forms, and then we also talk about the Help Center and the documents that are there. So that's the most recent edit to this new mentor training. And we will be updating this training to speak a little bit more about the transition for the revised MnCHOICES application. So you'll see more updates to this training in the next month or two. So I also wanted you guys to be aware of that we are committed as teams across divisions, across teams inside DHS to get back to your help desk forms in 2 days. The answer you might get is we are working on it, but at least you'll know that we've got your help desk form and we're beginning to do work on it. You're also welcome to email back on it if something isn't clear, but then once it's closed and we've answered your question, then we would prefer that you use a new help desk form. So sometimes people ask, well, why is it taking so long to get an answer back? So sometimes the issue requires further consultation across policy areas, and that takes some time. Sometimes there's an issue going on with the system, and we have to investigate it with the vendor, Minute, and the staff together. And so that takes some time. And sometimes we're waiting for you and you think you're waiting for us. And so sometimes that might be what it's about as well. So please know that we are taking those times for response seriously. We're measuring them. And we're really working to make sure that you get a response back as timely as possible. So with that, I will call on Wilson. And Wilson, do you have any updates today from the help desk? We'll let him get himself off mute. Is Wilson on the panelist side?
Wilson isn't in the call. Did you hear me, Teresa?
I don't see him on the panelist side, so I was going to see if I can see him in the participants list. So
He's not in the call.
Otherwise, I can speak for him if we aren't able to, if you don't see him in the attendees.
It sounds like Wilson's not on the call, so yeah, if you could speak to his slides, okay, that would be great.
Yep. So I spoke with Wilson this morning about the help desk, and he basically said that there wasn't anything new or pressing that they were seeing happening that you haven't already submitted in. So he didn't have any other items for the call today. And so I'm going to give this time if you have some MNA or MNSB, so MnCHOICES Assessment Computer Application, MnCHOICES Support Plan Computer Application, that you would like to ask those questions. We'll take them here. If there aren't any, don't ask revised MnCHOICES questions here. Wait till after my slides. So only these two applications. So if you have questions, though, we want to make sure we answer them. So feel free to raise your hand if you do. If we don't see any, then we'll move on. But I can't assume that we won't have them. Any questions?
It looks like we have a question from Emily Gerard. Hi, Emily.
Can you remind us what the timeline is as we're still working in MNA and MNSP and needing plans closed for when there are systematic rollovers to pull those PDFs into revision? Can you remind me what the timeline is for when those pulls are happening so we can double check to make sure plans are actually all the way closed out?
Yeah, that's actually going to be one of my slides in this next batch. So it's perfect. You're doing a great lead in. Um, so we are asking people to make sure your assessments, CSPs and CSSPs are in the proper status. I'll go through those statuses in just a moment. What I'm hearing from the tech team, because I asked that question, like when are they pulling over? They're doing polls once a month, but even those polls might be a whole another month behind because of the timings of the systems. So anticipate that you should be seeing them within 2 months of when you close them, but I'm expecting, 30 days, a month, like the next month at the beginning of the month, you should be seeing them. And I'll talk a little bit about if you're not seeing them, are they in a closed status or not? And if they are and you're not seeing them come over, like, we've been doing this long enough. If you're not seeing them come over in like 3 months, then you could potentially put in a help desk form and we could see why some forms aren't coming over. But I'm hoping that answers your question.
Yeah, that's fine. I wasn't so concerned about docs not showing, more so wanting to make sure our staff are actually closing things so that eventually they get pulled.
Yep, actually, that's going to be part of the conversation that we'll be having too. So I think the question though is, you may just need to go in like the support plan. You can go and look at your organization and see if, yep, right.
Yeah,
That's, I think, the best way to monitor rather than us trying to pull reports and give them to you. But yep, it's a good reminder though, that if people don't take that time and do that, then those docs won't pull over. And then when those
easily forgotten by staff. So we've been providing reminders, but because the full cutoff isn't until like right around when MNSP is fully being shut down, correct?
Right.
Like another final pull.
Yeah, correct. As we get closer to retirements of systems, we'll kind of let you know all of that. I don't have the answer to when that's going to be beyond what's been communicated. And so I feel like I'd be talking out of scope if I.
Nope, totally fine. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, our next question comes from Mary. Except that my computer just did something very strange. Hang on just a second. Okay, no, Mary took her hand. So, but I do believe we now have Wilson on.
Yeah, Wilson, I didn't know if you. Yeah, I didn't know if you had any updates that you wanted to give. I said basically everything's going just fine, but you're welcome to say hi and say anything else you would like to say.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Yeah. So everything. For the legacy tool, functionality hasn't changed at all. Still processing any tickets that come through on the legacy application, but other than that, no pressing issues or nothing that has come up that has changed.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Beth, I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slides if you don't see anybody else's hands up.
I think that's just fine, Teresa. Thank you.
Yep. So here's what I have on my list to talk about today for revised MnCHOICES. Reminders on outage schedule, reminder to complete your forms. We'll talk about that. Items users are having issues with or you have questions about, and then your time for questions. This won't take long. I don't have a ton. I really don't want to eat up all the time since I know that you have questions, but we do have some things we want to cover. So one thing I want you to know is the MnCHOICES outage schedule on PartnerLink has been updated. Our next release is for February the 9th, but I also want you to know that we added the regularly scheduled maintenance to that outage schedule. So if you click on this link, it'll take you out there and you'll be able to see what all of the production outages that are coming up in dates, as well as the monthly maintenance schedule information. So we added that to PartnerLink so that you would have the most recent information. So the other piece I want to talk to you, we talked a little bit about on the assessment and the support plan side, making sure your statuses for your forms are closed so that they will come over historically. I also need to remind you of similar to that, and I would have talked about that, but since we had talked about it, I'll keep it just to this slide here, is we're seeing the same thing in the revised MnCHOICES application. We need folks to, when you are done with forms, moving them to the status that shows they're complete. So for health risk assessment, when a health risk assessment is all done, you mark it complete status. When a MnCHOICES assessment is all done, it moves to approved in MMIS. And a support plan, when it's all done, needs to be moved to plan approved. We're monitoring these forms and we're seeing a bunch of them staying open, and we really need to make sure staff are moving them to these statuses. To improve that, since we still know some people are having confusion about especially support plan statuses, the SMART guides are being updated to include the statuses in a row and what each of them are. And so those SMART guides should be coming out in the next couple of weeks. I'll let you know when they've come out, but they'll be added to the help center with those updates to them. But again, just so that you know, these then are the statuses that we need to start seeing forms in, because we're seeing forms staying not in these statuses. They're staying open. And we know that they're done because they've, maybe from July or August and September. And so we're monitoring these. And at some point, you may see communication from us asking your agency to close some forms. Yep, so these are the ones that I'm currently working through, okay? So policy has worked through the SMART guides. I've worked through and added the statuses to each of them. And so we've done that to make them more clear for folks, because we've heard lots of people ask about the status questions. We also added to the SMART guide the filter button for revising a support plan, that you have to go to the filter and pick support plan, and then revise will show up, because it's clear that the filter button gets missed, and we're hoping by putting in the visual you'll be able to see it. And then we heard bunches of questions about support plan signatures with the provider, and so we added, if a person wants to share their plan with the provider, the case manager must attempt to collect a signature from the provider to the SMART guide to help clarify that question that we were hearing time and time again. So we're hoping that those improvements to those forms or those SMART guides, help center resources, will be useful to you. And like I said, we will let you know when they're available. I was hoping they would be out by today's call, but we've had some other competing items that have taken precedence. So the other thing I wanted to go through with you is forgot passwords. I know some agencies have real regular, it's time to change your passwords for your systems. And we were having a few people say, hey, I'm having issues with this. Remember, forgot your password is really only for the production environment and not for MTZ. MTZ should always stay that standard password that we've been using, so don't change your password for MTZ. But if you're changing your password for prod and you hit the forgot password when you log in and this screen comes up, the mistake I see people making is in the username, they want to type their name in, but they actually have to put the PW or X1 number that they're using to log in. And then if they do reset password, then they'll get the email that shows the end of their email. Otherwise, we're getting but it's sending to something that isn't my email. And the reason why that occurs, sending it to something that isn't my email is because it's basically a protection, right? Like, you can't log in, you're not following the rules, we're sending you information that isn't correct because something you did wasn't correct. So in this instance, the issue is the username has to be the PW or X1 if they're going to reset their password. So if you have users coming to you saying, hey, I can't change my password in production, I'm getting this weird message, then you know that's what's causing it. Okay? So some of these are questions that we've gotten recently in the pre-submitted questions. So could MnCHOICES add a I don't know for person profile sections, especially tribal nations? The profile sections, the best practice is to complete the fields, but if you don't know them, you could leave them blank. But we also wanted to take an opportunity to say, hey, for the tribal affiliations, it's important that you ask the question. Tribal nation members do have dual citizenship, and they can choose to receive services of the tribal nation, county, or the MCO. And so to learn more about how to support people affiliated with tribal nations, these are some webinars that have been done by the support planning team. But again, yep, you can leave them blank rather than don't know, because we don't have an option for don't know in the person profile. But for tribal affiliation, it's important to ask. So another question that we got asked is where to indicate a person would be homeless without a current living arrangement. So what we're seeing is users and providers are reporting that some people aren't meeting nursing home level of care because the old choice homeless without their current housing type isn't until selection in the revised MnCHOICES application, and we're specifically hearing about it around case mix L. So the question was, how do we indicate it that the person would be homeless without current living arrangement? And so the answer is here. They would go into the functional assessment, self-determination under informed choice, and the person requires a shared living arrangement due to any of the following would be what was picked. And so requiring a shared living arrangement is a way of saying, yep, this person would be without housing if they didn't have a shared living arrangement. So that's what we would ask you to use. So we're going to go through a couple of support plan signature items. And so I'm going to start with this one. One of the items that we're hearing about from the vendor, we haven't necessarily heard it so much from people, is if you take a form offline, a support plan offline, and if the user attempts to take a signed e-signature support offline for the second time, so they were offline once, they came back online, they go off a second time, and they'll lose the original e-signature. And if the user attempts to make changes in the signature field, they won't be able to bring the support plan online. And so that fix is scheduled for March the 8th. So we wanted you to be aware of this issue. It probably won't hit the CFD, right? The current functionality document, sorry, because it'll be in between this release and next release. And so we wanted you aware if there are any instances where you're taking support plans off and you've have an e-signature the first time and you take it offline the second time, this defect could occur. So this issue could occur. So we just wanted you aware of it. We don't think it's very likely, but we thought it was worth sharing with you. So in this instance, the support plan signature, the user created a plan, a revision plan, and selected no for our signatures required. And then later they went back and they changed the response to yes, okay? So the system failed to the person is reporting the system failed to recognize the last selection, right? And this action in the revised plan will cause issues with uploading the signature file when the handwritten is selected. And so if you said no and then, oops, yep, we have to do it, and you went out to get a handwritten and you're getting a handwritten signature, it will cause issues. And again, we're letting you know that this one will be fixed on this next release on February the 9th. So it's kind of one of those in between the current functionality documents and releases, and we just wanted to make sure you were aware of the instances it would happen and when it was going to be fixed. And so what are the directions for that? What happens when that happens? What do you do? So in order for the user to move forward, they'll need to create a new support plan and obtain new signatures. They can copy and paste from the previous plan, or they can discard the revised plan and create a new plan from the initial approved support plan and select yes for signatures, whichever works until that is done. So another question that we have been getting from you and then you've been asking at office hours and we thought we would try to answer it here today is you want to send service details to the provider. Okay. So you go to the support plan and you go to the My Support section and you go first to the support plan header then and you choose print. And you do select support plan print in the drop down menu and then select all and the services that support me. Sorry, I'm going to see if I can see if I'm in as a case manager or not in MTZ so I can show this to you. And then in the provider box, you'll select all to clear the selected items because it'll make it go blank. And then you can scroll down and you can pick the provider from that checkbox. And then you can do click print preview so you can look at it. Yep, is this how I want it to look? And if it looks good, then you can select the PDF form so that you can print it out. And so we wanted you aware of that. I was going to see if I could at least get you semi-close to looking at it. I might not have a support plan that's far enough along, but I at least can get you so you can see what I'm talking about. So we'll just do real basic because like I said, I don't know what I have in here for waiver providers or anything like that. So print, and it said what? To go to support plan print. So it says I have to first do select all so they all go off. Then I go down and I pick services that support me. And I do preview. Let's see, I don't know that I have anything on here. Anyways, and then it'll be there so that you can then pick. So if I had a provider, then I could pick the provider from the provider list. Sorry, I didn't show you that part. So you pick the services that support me. The providers will be listed here. You can either select one or select them all. Then when you go to preview, you can then look at it, see if how it looks, and then you can print it. So support plan print in the drop down menu. In this section, by clicking select all, it deselects all the buttons so that you can do the services that support me. Then the provider list will come up and you can pick the provider and then you can do preview so you can see it and then make sure it's what you want. So the other question we got is about LTSS evaluation because we haven't talked about it for a while. So the question was, is the LTSS evaluation ready to begin? Should we begin using to monitor services or providers, or is the directive that we should continue not to using it at this time? So during the transition period, if you're in MNSP, you can continue to use the LTSS improvement tool, but until you've given direction by DHS, you're not required to use it in support plans for the revised MnCHOICES application. And basically what we're saying is go look at this resource for the answer to the question, but the resource will say, nope, you don't need to do it for the revised MnCHOICES application. So that's what I had, and I'm sorry if you feel like I went through it a little quick. I can go back and look at slides. I'm going to see actually if I can escape out of my PowerPoint. So if you want me to go back and look at stuff, I can more easily without having to scroll through them. So there, I have it up, I hope, in a manner that if you say, go back to slide 14, I can do it easier. So let's go ahead and open up for questions. And again, I apologize if you felt like I went through things quickly.
Okay. Giovanna, you're unmuted. Hi there.
Oh, hi. So I didn't hear my name there, but anyway, I'm calling from Olmsted County, and I have a question about eligibility updates. We're just hitting those right now, and I'm not sure if this was discussed previously, but I can describe what I did, and you can tell me maybe if I should do things differently. I completed the initial assessment and the support plan, and they're both finalized and closed. At the time of the eligibility update, when I did my update over the phone, I opened up a new assessment, and on the initiate assessment page, the referral date I kept to be the date of my initial referral that I got for this client. The assessment type I picked initial assessment. And the problem I have is that this new assessment is asking me why am I late with my assessment because it's over 20 days. In effect, the dates are correct. They're within the guidelines, but the assessment is registering as if I am doing this assessment late. So I don't know if there's anything else I should do about this, if I should do it any differently.
Can I just repeat back what I heard?
Mm-hmm.
And other folks feel free to jump in. So it sounds like you did an initial assessment initially, and you were going to do an eligibility update.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so when you're doing that, after you've done an initial assessment in MnCHOICES, you would select eligibility update as your program type to do the next step. And then that will give you an activity type 09 or an action type 12 for DD.
Okay.
And
Are
so
you talking in
it's
this?
asking you because it's thinking that you're late, but you're really not because you meant to do an eligibility update.
And are you talking about the screening document fields? At the end of the assessment, the screening document fields?
Well, within the initiate assessment, so you're initiating assessment, you're saying the person's not a current recipient, you did your initial, and MnCHOICES is going to look to see whether or not you're eligible to do an eligibility update, and if you are, it's going to give you that option to do an eligibility update, and then you'd be able to do that, and you wouldn't get that question about it being late, because it's really not. You did the assessment timely, that first assessment timely, you're now doing a timely eligibility update, and so that's should be why you're seeing that question, but if it's deeper than that, maybe send it in with some screenshots and we can take a look to see what might be happening. But it sounds like you're just not choosing the assessment type eligibility update.
Yeah, that could be it. I don't remember seeing the option, and I have another coworker that went through it, and she's just telling me now that she hasn't seen that option at all.
Yeah,
well.
I'm actually looking for the office hours PowerPoint that it was in, because we've talked a little bit about eligibility update. I think it's in the December one, so I'm going to go there. But Amy, is there anything else that you would add about dates?
Yeah, Teresa, thanks for asking. This is Amy Alexander, and I'm MnCHOICES policy staff. Teresa, we did demo this, I think, last month, so I don't know if you're quick enough to go in and try to find that PowerPoint. But if you select, and there's a little bit about it in the MnCHOICES assessment practice guide as well, but if you select that the person is not a current recipient, you should be able to select an eligibility update if it's within this policy timeline, so if it's within 60 to 90 days. But you have to select, I think actually when we tested it, you could select either, but if you select that they're not a current recipient, you should be able to select eligibility update, and there is a drop down. I can kind of get one ready to demo again if that would be helpful, but it'll just take me a minute, so we might need to move on to another question. But and then, yeah, there is around the dates about eligibility update, there is one item in the current functionality document that talks about Beth, you might have to weigh into it, the effective date versus the result date. So if you're having issues with those dates, I would recommend looking at the current functionality document for the workaround. And the workaround is just that you have to manually adjust the date when you put it into MMIS.
Okay.
So there is something around the dates that you'll want to take a look at if you guys are experiencing issues with that. But as far as being able to select eligibility update, you should be able to do that when you're initiating the assessment. There should be an eligibility update dropdown that you can select. So
you
Teresa,
know
if you
what?
want to go back and look at that, otherwise I can try to get one ready to demo as well.
Yeah,
If
so
that's not a problem. Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
yeah, so if you have someone I can look for in MTZ, Amy, I'm happy to find them.
Yeah,
we can
Teresa, I
demo
think
it.
the one we used for the demo last time,
Yep.
it's not going to work again because I had already initiated an assessment on it. So I'd have to just look, and it has to be within the 60 to 90 days that you did a initial
Yep.
assessment. So I'd have to just go through
Yep.
my
We'll let you
training
do
though to
that.
see if I have anybody.
Yeah, we'll let Amy do the prep work to get ready to demo eligibility update, and we'll take other questions. And Amy, when you're ready, you just let us know, and then I'll search for the person and we'll do it together, okay?
That sounds good. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, and Giovanna, I think that will help you if we demo it and show it to you again. But you may be having two different issues. You may having the issue that's mentioned in the current functionality document, but we'll also show you how to choose eligibility update in the assessment.
Okay, our next question is from Annie Braun.
I might be outing our county as one of the counties that has some support plans that stay open. So I'm just wondering if there's another way to do this, but essentially we have some individuals who they need specialized supplies and equipment, so T 2029, and it changes monthly from provider to what they need changes monthly. So in those cases, the case manager is just leaving it open and making those changes. If they're to close it, my understanding is then they have to create a new plan and redo all of the services each time they do that. And if they're doing that monthly, I mean, that's all they would be doing. Am I understanding that that is the only, that is the issue that we should be having, and that is the only way that we should be doing it? Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. So yeah, I would say do any of the support plan policy want to address that concern?
Victoria, do you want to jump in here?
Hi, everybody. This is Victoria from Support Planning Policy Team. Yeah, in that situation, you're going to want to use the revised functionality.
And then Victoria, now with the last release, all of the services and everything are copying over with dates and rate inputs. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, if they use revised plan. Yep.
So they won't have to do that input over. It'll all, with the revised, it'll roll over into the next plan. It would just be updating the equipment changes.
Yes.
So what they're saying is every month they would have a new revised plan to show those changes.
Yep. Revised functionality is meant to make edits to the support plan within the support plan span.
Thank you.
Victoria. Okay, Linnea Stevens.
Wanting to confirm.
Hi, Linnea.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. There's
So,
just a pause.
okay. So when we get notifications that there are going to be system upgrades, I just wanted to confirm that each time that happens, so the routine ones and any other one-off ones, our staff need to be recreating their MnCHOICES bookmark and clearing their cache each one of those times. Is that right?
They need to clear their cache. I don't think they need to recreate their bookmarks. The bookmarks will just go empty.
Okay, so as long as they clear their cache, their existing bookmarks should be okay?
The bookmarks will
That's correct.
show on their browser. Yes, they'll
Okay.
display on their browser. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, our next question is from Maria. Sorry, I always do that. Hi, Maria.
So I have a question about what Teresa was going over as far as printing the support plan for a particular provider and choosing services that support me, is that really the only box that we should check if we're printing things out for PCA providers? Or should we be sending all the information from the support plan to a PCA provider, or just that provider specific with services that support me? Because we were told to send the full support plan to them, and this kind of negates that. Am I correct?
So we'll let one of the support plan policy folks answer that one. Give them a chance to think a second. So what you heard her ask is, I demoed, right, how to go to the services that support me and pick the service provider and that they can print that. What I heard Maria say is that they've been told that they need to do a full support plan for PCA providers. Did I have that correct? Did I speak to that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard, is that that's what we're supposed to do.
Okay, so then we'll, folks, do you have guidance?
Yeah, this is Liz Sisk, Case Management and Support Plan Policy Specialist. We have that option if the person does not want their whole plan shared. We would prefer that the whole plan is shared, but it is up to the person whether or not they want part of their plan shared or their whole plan shared.
So that's different for PCA than any other provider?
No.
So what Teresa demoed is just if the person doesn't want it. Other than that, we don't only choose services that support me. We just.
So this was about specifically sending service details to the provider.
Okay, but
that's the hair splitter.
Okay,
so rate input is another way to say service details. Sorry.
Okay, so typically we don't just do that little part, or just the services that support me, unless they're just wanting that. Okay, and then again, that late assessment box that pops up, I just want to let you guys know it also pops up for PCA. Because yeah, sorry, I'm throwing an extra one in here, but that just popped up. We get assigned, like at the end of the previous month, we get assigned more than 20 days ahead of time that we have to do a PCA reassessment. And every time we click on those, if it's more than 20 days when we actually do it, even though it's within the month prior, or the month, that the service agreement expires, it's giving us that. So I've just been putting in there, it's not late, it's within parameters. Is that what you want us to do? To just make a note in there saying it's not really late? I guess, is that clear? Like if I had an assessment that had to be done this month, it would have been assigned already, but I might not get to it until the very end of February, and it's more than 20 days. So the 20 days doesn't apply to the reassessments. But yet we get that message.
Yeah, you could just put a note in that it doesn't apply, that this person was already receiving PCA or CFSS services.
Okay, all right. Just so that's okay to do that. Okay.
That's
all right,
perfectly
cool.
fine. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, our next question is from Heather.
Birthday assessments when you're the care coordinator.
Heather, can you just speak up a little bit? You're very far away.
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit, but just speak a little louder, please.
Okay. So the previous guidance was the case manager could do the 65th birthday assessment. And then we, as the EW case manager, that's the care coordinator, could do an 07 off of that assessment and flip them and open them to EW, and we could put that in. With revision, how will that work as far as you can see for the support plan and putting the services in place for elderly waiver then? because what I'm understanding is the guidance is going to be we have to do our own revision assessment in conjunction with the current CADI case manager doing their 65th birthday assessment.
So your question is, if the person is moving, you're doing a 65th birthday assessment, and the person is choosing to move to EW,
Yes.
what does that process look like?
Yes.
And can you use the same support plan?
Because it's two different case managers.
Is it, well, I'm getting a little confused because MCOs are coming in, and so I'm wondering if any of our Deb or Sue or Rakia, if you want to weigh in here, or if it's something we should take back and kind of think about that process.
Because we used to be able to do an 07. We didn't have to do our own assessment to open them to EW.
And I think that you should if they're still eligible for an NS level of care, but I'm just not sure about the type of support plan, and so I want those folks to weigh in.
Okay.
Is it an item policy, folks, that we would ask them to submit it into help desk form? Because I know what's happening is they're chatting with each other, right?
Yeah, I think we want to make sure that we're answering you correctly, or that we're giving you the full, because you're asking a few questions. So if you wouldn't mind, could you send that in on the help desk form, please? Thank you. Appreciate it, Heather. Okay, Kia.
I just have a few case manager working on support plans, and they are reporting that when they are inputting like service providers, and if they are needing to go back to edit or delete a provider, they're unable to do so.
If they want to delete a provider in the support plan, that's the question that you're asking?
Yeah, because they are having some provider changes with like the same services, but they can't go back and edit. And then we were trying to work on trying to delete the whole service provider and then adding a new one, but we are finding where we're stuck on not being able to either edit or delete.
So I have case management folks asking questions and they're wondering about the type of plan that you're using and the status it's in. But do either one of you guys want to hop on and talk about the hidden delete button? It's just harder to see. You have to scroll down on the screen to see how to delete a service on that service screen. So the question is, they're having difficulty deleting a service, a service. I'm assuming it's a service line that you want to delete that service line. And so they're wondering how to do that. And you're clicking on that delete button, but you're not seeing anything happen.
I can help answer this question, Beth.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, so you're clicking on the garbage can icon, correct? And then you're not seeing anything happen?
Correct.
There is a pop-up button that gets kind of hidden that sometimes you need to scroll down a little bit. It's in blue, and it says something along the lines of, this action cannot be undone. Would you like to undo it? And you can either click OK or cancel. But even for me, when I first started in revision, I didn't see that pop up either, and I had to scroll down. I have never not seen it happen. So I think it's always popping up as far as I know, that there's no defect associated with it. However, it is sometimes hard to see unless you scroll down.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Thanks, Kia. All right, Jovanna.
Oh, hi.
Did you have another question?
No, I probably lifted my hand by mistake. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. I'll unmute you or mute you again. Heather, I have you next, but I think that we may have the same situation. So if you want, I'll give you a second to take your hand down. Our next question comes from Bree Clone.
Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay. We just kind of wanted to see about some clarification in regards to the question that talks about increased ADL time. So we were kind of we were kind of trying to see, is it subjective or objective of a question? So we were looking at the assessment guide, and it talks about, in regards, the question specifically is, does the person need increased time for ADLs? The guide states that you would really only choose that question if the person has a condition that makes it harder for them. And the examples were like a stroke, ALS, MS. But before we looked in the guide, we actually reached out to the help desk because I didn't find it in the guide. And the response back had stated that we would need to review the supplemental summary charts. And if they have 6 or more ADL dependencies, then you'd click yes to that question. So they're kind of contradictory a little bit. So we just kind of wanted to have some clarification on what are the parameters where we would click yes or no to that specific question.
This is something that's in process of being fixed. I'm going to ask you to send it in so that we can give you a more detailed home care response. But generally, with that question to answer, and our current functionality document is going to tell you that if that question is, if you look at the supplemental summary charts and there are not 6 to 8 ADLs selected, that answer should be a no. And that's just, it's just that is the PCA policy, but if you send it in, we'll get you a much more detailed and from a PCA policy specialist response. So, but that's what we say in our current functionality document. So.
Okay, yeah, that's what I did send in. It's just, so right now we don't really reference the guide in regards to that question. The more accurate is the supplemental summary charts.
So yeah,
Correct.
what you're hearing
to make sure.
So what you're hearing Beth say is that this one's covered in the current functionality document. So, and as far as there's some additional guidance there because of there's an issue in the application. So it isn't that you weren't going to the practice guide incorrectly or something else. It's just that you have to refer to the current functionality document in this instance. Right, Beth? Am I hearing you correctly?
That's correct. But if you want some more in-depth language about why you'd select that option and what more detail is behind it, please send it in, and we will get you some more detail about that.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Lee. Okay, Annie Braun.
Sorry, I just didn't take my hand down.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, Heather, I still have you up here, so I'm going to click on you.
On the provider
Heather, do you have a question? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I have a question on the provider signatures. So the form that comes with MnCHOICES does not have the provider signatures on there anymore. So we've just been using the old form, but what is the correct way to get provider signatures or what's the expectation or requirement?
I'm going to let Liz or Victoria speak to that.
So, Liz or Victoria, if I can, I'll try to bring up a support plan because I think people miss that provider section. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, hi, this is Victoria from Support Plan Policy again. Yeah, if you want to, Teresa, you can pull up the signature section.
Yeah, because I think that this is an instance where they just don't see it. Am I thinking about that correctly?
Well, I think the question is the signature. Maybe we should hear the question. Can we hear the question again, please?
How are we expected to obtain and document the provider signature?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Does it have, I
Yeah,
thought
this is
somewhere
not
in here.
right. Yep. Can you keep scrolling down?
Yep, it might be because I've got this one started. So I'll go see if I can find another one. There is one that has the
Yeah, it's
case manager and the provider in it. I'll see if I can find, this is an old one. Sorry, do you have one that I could use, Victoria?
oh goodness, an MTZ.
Yeah.
Swanson, that also, gosh, I can't think of the first name. I hardly
That's
ever
okay,
have
I'll
MTZ
go
here.
look up Swanson and see if we can find one.
There could be one in there.
Otherwise, I was going to try to use Delphi too. We could show it. But you go ahead and explain it while I try to bring it up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get in the
Well,
way
I
of
mean,
that.
we would prefer you guys to do it is within the application, and you go down to it says provider, and then there's an add signature.
And so then how does that get to the provider for them to sign?
So there's some options. You can print the support plan and send it to them to sign and have it uploaded as a handwritten signature. Or when you're on the location with the provider, they can sign it.
Okay, I've never been on location with a provider at the time of support plan, so that is
Right.
not something that's a typical workflow. So what do they sign? So you print the support plan and there's a spot on there that says provider signature for them to sign?
Yes, once you've set it up, that's why I'm hoping Teresa can get into one. So
I'm trying to. I'm trying.
So
Everything I have. Go ahead.
I guess so, like, because what we have been doing is using the old provider signature form because the new signature form doesn't have providers.
Correct.
in
We did
it.
not design it. We did not design the new signature form to collect provider signatures. We really do want you guys to use the application as designed. And that would be to print the support plan and have them sign it.
I have it. Haha.
There we go. So if you want to go to signature, yep. And you see where it says provider?
Yeah.
I would like my plan to be shared with the following providers. So you would go to add provider or add signature, and you select the provider that the person wants to share their support plan with. Obviously, she doesn't
I don't have one.
Yeah, the provider's name would filter in when you're adding the services.
Yep.
Yep. And you know, it's our best practice and our guidance that you guys at least make 2 attempts to collect signatures. So you know, again, you have your method, which is, if you want to go to that next box, Teresa, if it will let you, because I don't know if you don't. Yep, you could choose either e-signature or handwritten. So if you're saying you're not on location with the provider, then you would choose handwritten, the date that you're requesting it, and you would and then that would be it. Then you would go and you would print the support plan, wait for them to sign it, and then when you come back and they've signed it, then you can say yes, attached.
Yep. And then when you do yes, attached, then it allows you to upload it into the support plan directly.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask a second question or do I need to go in the queue?
Is it related to this?
I'm just going to ask it and you can tell me if I need to ask it later. Is there any possibility that there is a way to collect all of these question and answers and put them in a working document? It's really difficult to sit on and listen to these every week or every month and then go, I think we talked about that this month, and then pull up that PowerPoint instead of like a FAQ document where we can reference.
So here's the issue for me as a trainer, okay? This answer should be in the policy, in the practice guide for support plan, or in the SMART guide for the support plan on how to do this. So we could collect your information and your questions, but it would say things like see SMART guide page 6. Or
that would be fine. I just spent a lot of time looking and didn't find it, so I just must not have realized the correct location.
Yeah, and so that's the hard part, right? Because then we're continually, those questions would just be referring you back. So we prefer to have you use the resources versus collecting a lot of questions and answering them by having you refer to the resource. And so That's kind of the quandary that you hear us in. And I know we've went through provider a couple of times and it's just not intuitive yet for people to do it, but it will make me go back and look at the training for signatures to see if we could be a little more clear on this going forward for future people to maybe actually go and practice doing a provider signature and making one up and trying to attach it so that people get used to it. So
Okay,
that's
and I
kind of
think
how
that
I'm
kind of
thinking about it.
illustrates my point, is that it's really difficult to attend these on those Fridays. And so you have probably talked about it, but to devote that time to sit here and listen is difficult. So I probably did miss it. Thank you.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's totally okay. Part of it is just knowing what resource to look in and getting used to knowing to look in them. So no, it's a great concern and I appreciate it. I'll just tell you where we're going to head with it. So thank you.
Teresa, can you show one more time how to add where it says providers right there? Can you just show that one more time, please? So it's
I'm talking on mute,
manager
trying to keep.
signature.
Yep. And so then add signature.
Yep.
And then if I had providers in this MTZ account, when you click this, you could pick the provider and then you could pick the method of signature, handwritten, then you could print it. And then what it'll do is it'll allow you to, when you come back to the support plan, there'll be a button that says that you can upload it. And I just don't have one ready to demo it. It also might be something to consider for a micro learning, and I'm going to make a note to that too, because how to add a provider signature to a support plan might be a great micro learning, because then you could watch it.
It's pretty simple actually. If you just clicked yes, Teresa, in that question.
Yeah, I just can't because I don't have a provider.
Oh, it didn't let you do it. Okay, I apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's the issue.
Teresa, I'm going to add a provider in for you really quick.
Yep, go for it. But I am writing a note to do a micro learning for adding a provider signature. I think that would be a really good one because then you could see it live and you could look at it. I think that would be a fine idea.
So Teresa, I just added a provider. If you click somewhere else and maybe go back in, hopefully it'll show up for you.
Okay, I'll go out. I'll go back to my Ernie the cat. And we'll go back to my support plan. Go back to signatures. We're back down to where it says provider. Add a signature. Clinical services. Handwritten. So see here, then choose file comes up. And then I'm going to try saving it without anything because we're assuming that they're going to have to go out, right? So see, you don't have to have it all done. We'll see how long the little waiting for progress goes. If all else fails, I'll just click. Clicking somewhere else isn't speeding this up. Let's try like this. And so here it sits. I can go in and edit it, and then I can upload it later. Again, this one might be a good micro learning. That way people could see it in real time in the system and could do it with them. So thanks for the suggestion for support.
Okay, our next question is from Amber Roman.
Hey, I got a question from a colleague regarding them getting an edit when they try to enter a provider. It comes up, could not find county of residence. So I'm just wondering, I asked if she had assigned the locations, and she said she did assign the 2 county locations, the county of residence and the county, she had those in both of the assigned locations, but I'm thinking we're missing another area that we're supposed to be assigning that.
I'm wondering, this sounds like one that we might have to look further into. I wonder if, because you have the option when your assessment is in progress, or when your support plan is in assessment in progress, lots of confusion there. But when you have your assessment in that status, the about plan information should come over from the assessment, and you should be able to get, there's a place for COR there to be able to update and change COR. And I wonder if that might be accidentally blank. But if that's not the case, then I would be checking, I would be sending it in for support plan folks to take a deeper look at. Liz or Victoria, would you add anything else to that?
I agree, Beth, that it would probably need to be sent in so we can take a closer look at it, but it might be something as simple as the status that you're in and making sure it's in progress, assessment complete, so that the assessment information was pulled. But we can take a closer look at it if you send the ticket in.
I would just be interested in the steps you took to get there, because well, that you're not going to see that COR information. There's still, I wonder why you're seeing. It's curious. So it might be good to send us in your steps of how you got there and where it showed that error. Okay, our next question, Martina Johnson.
I think you called my name. This is Martina.
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, Martina.
Okay, hi. Sorry, this is a really basic question, but I just want to make sure I'm on the right track. I onboarded a new assessor into MnCHOICES, and for some reason, every time I select the role of certified assessor, it will save for that day, and she can go in and do the work that she needs to do, but then overnight, something happens and it's not saving that role.
Yep, I'll speak to that one.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I'm bringing my user account up in MTZ so we can talk about it. So the reason why that's happening, the reason why the certified assessor role isn't staying is because the person's credentials aren't complete, okay? If you go in the person record and their profile and their credentials are blank, that's why, because the system's saying they're not a certified assessor. Their credentials aren't in the application. And so what that means is when you put in an access ticket on the Minnesota Service Hub, you'll choose it asks you a question, is this person a certified assessor? And they'll choose yes. And then they'll provide them the train link ID, the SAM team, the train link ID. They'll enter it in. Once that train link ID is entered in, that role won't get pulled from the system, and any data that they have about their certification dates, like their first certification, their second one, their third one, it'll all get loaded and listed here. And then you won't have that problem anymore.
Okay.
But it's because the credentials are blank. That's why you're having the issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
And if you would like to, you can submit that in on a SAM ticket and ask them to fill it out. And they can complete that information. They can fill in that train link ID.
Through our security liaison, or is there a different path?
Yep. Use your security liaison and I think they have a form. Heather, are you on? Can you help me remember the name of the form that they use when it's things like password resets and adding train link IDs?
Yes, Teresa, I'm here. I can look that up and come back.
And let her know? Yeah, because it's a shorter version than putting in the whole long access ticket. So Heather will look that up, and then we will get back to you with what to indicate on the security liaison access ticket request.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question is from Sarah Hickman. Hey, Sarah.
Hi there. My question is a little bit related to the individual that talked about the list of questions. I'm curious to know, we're getting a lot of feedback from the help desk about corrections. Is there a place, is the current functionality guide updated with all the responses to the different lead agencies about either, I'm specifically thinking about DD screening docs and scoring. I'm hearing from other colleagues from different counties that they've been given direction, yet the current functionality hasn't been updated. So I'm just wondering what DHS's process or thoughts are about sharing the information that you give to one lead agency to the rest of the state. Thank you.
Yep, so specifically for items that might be in between one current functionality document and another, but let's address the DD one first. Beth, can you speak to that? Is it in
Well,
this January version?
There are some that are, I mean, it's a moving target, right? There are lots of moving things. There's processes that we have to go through in order to get things on the CFD. And so we try to answer your questions as they come in, but we also want to get them out statewide as soon as we can. And so we really work to do that with each release to make sure that anything that we've noticed that we've seen goes through this process. I guess I'm not sure that I can speak more specifically about it.
Yes. So what we talked about before is at our last webinar is your issues come in, then we log them, then we rank them, then they go through a process of review, and then they once they get ranked and they get talked about, then they get moved into the current functionality document. I'm seeing most things get into the current functionality document in a month plus. And if there's something in between, we're working really hard to do what we did at office hours today, which is tell you the new ones that we're ready to talk about out loud because we can confirm yes, it is an issue. But the current functionality document is updated after every release. So it's never more than a month and it always has the new date on it. And so the other thing is to make sure that you haven't saved an old version of it, and we always update it with the date on it. But to your point, what do you do if something's going on that you think that you should know about and you don't, and another county's got a response back? Putting it in a frequently asked questions section isn't likely, in all honesty, to be any faster than having it go to the current functionality document and be posted on PartnerLink. It's both going to take about the same time. So I'm not sure that would solve it from that perspective. But a question of is there another way to communicate an issue that we think has larger impact is something we could go back and discuss. We have been having conversations about when that would occur and what items would that be. So if you feel like this is one that you want to raise up and you want to give us feedback on, you could definitely put it in on a help desk form.
Yeah, I think a follow-up question to that is what I'm finding is specifically for DD, some of the ways that 1.0 did it and determined eligibility has either been updated on revised, because the intention was never to have that happen on 1.0, but maybe it didn't get updated. So they're fixing that in the revised, which then impacts the results and is then different than 1.0 and potentially is an appeal issue. So having that response from DHS, whether it be in the current functionality or in what you give as guidance back to other lead agencies, could potentially be what we would use to justify going into an appeal. So looking far down the road from my perspective, it would be very helpful to have that information somewhere so we can access it.
Oh goodness, because those are often specific, they can be specific situations. If they're, general situations, we'll try to get them on the CFD as soon as possible. And I can for sure take that feedback back that you'd like to see them sooner than later on there. But I would recommend that if you have a question about something in the interim that you'll send it in and we'll get a response back to you as soon as we can. Just to take a look at each individual case and make sure that we're getting it right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Teresa, can we take a quick break to look at, to do that eligibility update walkthrough? I think we're all set.
Yep, sorry, I had to find my unmute button because I'm trying to keep my noise down for the webinar. So, okay, I am ready. Amy, tell me who to search for.
All right, Teresa, can you search for Ruby Robbins?
Ruby Robbins?
One B.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Like the bird.
Yeah, right, the bird. There you go. And then go into our forms. Okay, so I'll just have you stop for a second. So there was, the last assessment. It's a little weird because I had to kind of rush to do it so I could show you guys, but you have to make sure that there's an assessment that's in there that's approved, an initial assessment, so that you can build, an eligibility update on top of that. So you'll see there's an initial assessment that's approved. And then the next one, Teresa, is the one I just went in and started to initiate. So you can click on that. And then, click on edit. Alrighty. So in the recipient identifier, let's say that she's not a current recipient because, right, she had her initial, but she hasn't moved on to a program yet. And then you'll fill out those dates and then scroll down. Okay, then you see that assessment type right there.
I know. Hang on, I'll do it again.
It doesn't want to load for us.
Well, here, we're going to just do save a second. Oh, it's not going to let me because I don't have the dates in. Ah.
That's funny.
It's probably just my internet. I'm going to go out and go back in, okay?
Okay.
Oh, it's not probably going to want me to. Here, let me just put some dates in. What do you want for a referral date?
Yeah, or if you just, I can share my screen too. It's working on my end, so.
Okay, you go for it. Swap over your share.
Okay, let me just pull it over to my screen here. All right.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Sorry, just a few clicks now in WebEx to share, so it just takes me a second. Alrighty, can you see my screen?
Yep, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so we're in Ruby. So I selected that she's not a current recipient, and then I would, ideally fill all of these out. And then we get down to the bottom, and here's our eligibility update. So when you go to assessment type, this will populate if you're working, the last assessment was an initial and it was within 60 to 90 days, you should get this eligibility update option when you go down to select your assessment type. So there we go. And then the dates are the ones that I talked about that is in the current functionality doc, so that you should be able to have actually maybe it's not this date, it's within the assessment, but that you should be able to have a result date that is prior to the activity or to the, oh gosh, Beth, I'm confusing myself now, you might need to step in, but you should, the dates for the eligibility update, there is a workaround that you have to manually enter it in MMIS while we wait for a fix on that one. But there you go, that's how you find the eligibility update. So not current recipient, and then you scroll down and there's the eligibility update. So if there's any questions, let us know.
Thank you, Amy. I'll take my sharing back so that you don't have to.
Teresa, this is Heather. I have a response to the question regarding the Minnesota Service Hub submission. So the agency would have their lead agency security liaison submit a SAM access request, and that's one of the forms that they can choose within the Minnesota Service Hub. And then after they've selected MnCHOICES, there'll be a question after user access. It says, is this user a certified assessor? They'll say yes. That's where they enter the TrainLink ID, and that will initiate the process for the SAM team to add credentials to the user's profile in the revision.
Thank you, Heather.
Welcome.
Okay, Linnea.
Hi there. So I do assessments at an MCO delegate. We do HRAs and support plans. And my question is related to some challenges we have sometimes with the health insurance information section in the profile. So when we're doing an assessment and a brand new MnCHOICES chart has been started, for the most part, it only takes an overnight refresh or two for the health insurance information to pull over and populate for us. And we need that because we need that SNBC start date on our assessment. But in situations where it's taking longer than a couple days and the staff just need to get on with things and complete the assessment, is it okay if we use our delegate enrollment date instead of the SNBC start date just as a stand-in for that field?
So I'm going to let them have a chance to think a minute. Rakia, I was thinking about, didn't we say in a previous office hours that if it's more than 24 hours, that they could submit it into the help desk, that the health insurance information isn't loading? I just had this recollection back to the December webinar just because I just looked at it, but I don't want to get in the way of the question that you were asking. So the question that you were asking was for SNBC,
Yep.
what date you could use. Is that what I was
Yeah.
hearing you say? Okay.
Right. If it's taking a long time for the health insurance information to populate, then is there any adverse impact of us using our delegate enrollment date just as a stand-in for that SNBC start date so we can finish the assessment just in the interest of timeliness?
Teresa, you are correct. We did say if you don't have within 24 hours, if the health insurance information isn't populating, please contact us because we want to make sure to find out what's going on with it. But again, I'll let Rakia and Devin Sue answer the question about the enrollment date.
Okay.
So I'm guessing they're speaking with each other right now. And
Okay.
so we'll just give them a moment
That's
to,
okay. Thank
to
you.
line themselves up and say who's talking.
Yeah, and sorry, this is Rakia, and I know that it sounds like you're trying to move forward with your work, and so you're wanting to create that HRA, so you're not having to wait for that information to load. And so I don't know, I guess I would need Deborah Sue to weigh in on if the enrollment date, the delegate enrollment date would be the same as what populates. I don't know in terms of date spans.
It is sometimes,
it's
but
different.
not always. Yeah. Sometimes there's a lag between the time someone starts with their SNBC plan and the time they're assigned to a delegate, or maybe they've had SNBC for a couple of years and they've gone between different delegates. So they're not always the same.
Okay. So Devin Sue, do you think that that date would be okay for her to use, or would she need to connect with the MCO for guidance on if that date should be used?
This is Deborah, and I think they should connect with the MCO to see what date should be used. Thank you for the question.
Okay. And then similarly to that, there are also times when we have a member, they're due for their HRA, but they've gone inactive. And so our instruction is to still do the assessment, but now the health insurance information has disappeared because the member is inactive. Would that be another situation to take that to the MCO to determine what date to use if we don't show an SNBC start date?
This is Deborah again with SNBC, and yes, please take it back to the MCO.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is from Jennifer Foster.
Hello, thank you. My question is, you mentioned you're monitoring the assessments in the support plans that are open and not in the complete status. You said you might reach out to us to notify if there's older ones in that open type of status. Is there any type of reporting capability, either now or in the future, that we can be more, proactive and kind of help monitor this issue ongoing?
So what you have available currently would potentially be using bulk assignment as a way to look. I was thinking about this too, right? Like, how would you know currently? Because you could look at the status or use the query to look at. I'm thinking about this too. Like, how do you monitor currently? Bulk assignment might at least get you to who's assigned and unassigned, but I don't think it's going to give status. I know that we are looking at reports. One of the things that we have been asking is kind of like, what is that list of reports and when it is going to be available? And that process is nearing completion. So I'm hoping to have an answer for you soon on that one. I just don't currently have an answer. So the only other way I can think about it is to either use query and caseload for assessments, and then look at what you can pull from, or caseload by organization.
I know from the past when we've tried to use that query option, it pulls up all members, not just our MCO. So it's, you know, we're doing 6,000, 7,000 members. So I didn't know if there's an easier way.
I am not aware of one currently, but I haven't played in it, you know, in any real depth. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a better answer than that.
Teresa, this is Heather. If you go to MnCHOICES assessment, and then there is a option for location, bottom, search by location.
Yep, so they can do that. So I'll show you what it looks like. I probably,
And then you can choose the status of in progress or initiate. That might narrow it down some.
What I don't know is if it's going to show them the statuses, Heather. And right now, for some reason, I'm not getting it to work on my side. So, it's because I'm case manager. That's why, that's my role currently. I have to switch over. So it may show the plans that are available, but it might not show the statuses. And so I think that maybe the answer for right now is to use what we have. If it does not give you what you need, we will probably have to wait until we get reports and let you have a sense of what reports we're going to give you. So that you have a way to monitor, because that's the question I hear being asked, is how do we monitor?
Yep, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, our next question is from Becky. Hey, Becky.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I have a question about kind of managing workload and being able to see what is open and what assessors or case managers are working on. I'm trying to figure out how to, if as an assessor, see what I have open, what I don't have kind of completed and finalized, and also the same for case managers. And I'm wondering, besides query, I see that's where you're at, but if you can show me how to do it easily in query, or if there's a way, I really want it on my desktop face sheet, and I don't know if that's an option.
Yep. So for yourself, you're saying?
For myself or any other worker, how do we track?
Yep, I hear you.
In
And
the
we're
old
hearing you.
MnCHOICES, we had that list, and we could see what was open and what the status was and where we were at with things.
Yep, we're hearing it more and more from all of you as you get to that point where you're using the application enough that you want to be able to do good monitoring. So individually, you can go to the My Caseload tile and look at your own caseload. Where I am currently is in query for assessment. What you heard Heather say earlier is that you could pick, I want to see for my location. So in this case, we have our locations by roles, but this could say something like, I don't know, Crow Wing County, and you could do in progress, completed, ready, pending, and everything but approved in MMIS, and run query, and it would give you all of the staff that have plans. It has all the plans, okay? So you could see what status they were in and you would know. So you can at least get that from the assessment standpoint, but you're getting it by the person. You're not getting it by staff, but you can see the staff that it's to, so you could also sort by the staff member versus sorting by the person, which is what it looked like it was coming to. So you could at least see then for your staff member, where are things sitting, and you could specifically look for, has something not been moved, and you can see the status date is old, and you're like, wonder why they haven't moved it. So you could do that for assessment, and you can pick my caseload, either a caseload at my location or at my organization. But in your instance, if you're doing work and you've logged in as one of your locations, you'll want to do it at location. Support plan does not provide the same query level, and it really yeah, it really just allows you to look. Now I'm going to get it stuck so it won't do it. It's only going to allow you, here we'll go back, then we'll do it again. It's only going to allow you to do the person, but you could do the status, again, the same thing. You could do in progress, plan ready, plan pending, and do that many, and then run query. You could do it by programs, but again, it's by person. So you're not going to get it by location. So this one doesn't have it by location. So you're likely to get everybody in the state of Minnesota in here, and you would have to do it by plan owner. So if that's currently this how the system is and the reports are coming, like I said, I don't have the list of them yet. I don't have the timing of them yet. And as soon as we have them, we'll be able to tell you, but they really are coming because we've all been asking the questions for you, because we keep hearing you all asking it. When are reports coming? When are reports coming? People want to monitor work. So we've been asking that question as a team.
And it's only monitored by location, not an individual worker can't easily go in and see that for themselves.
So they can look at their caseload at my location, and then I can pick my assignment type, who am I working for? I can look at, so these are my locations. They look kind of funny. And then I can look at it by staff member. So I can look at it for myself and then look at it. So let's do, I'm user 40308. Let's see if I can type it in. Of course, it's not going to let me do it because I haven't picked the type. But yeah, they can do that. And so I would say play with these queries and see what they give you. They might not give you everything you need, but you might be able to get some monitoring out of them while you wait for reports.
And so with the caseload, you're suggesting, because people are putting their full caseload on there, are you suggesting that in order to say something's in progress, you'd actually take them on and off your caseload to
no
unassign and assign? No. Okay.
No. So to be clear, you're asking me a question about reporting. If a person has completed their work and they move their plans to something that says it's complete, then your question is, are you moving them off of their caseload, unassigning staff and unassigning the location? That's a process that your lead agency or the managed care organization, county or tribal nation says this is what they want you to do, because maybe the staff won't be doing it next year, so you could do that. But what I'm saying to you is caseload at my location will give you its specific information to when you log in and you pick, again, let's say I'm Thomas Allen, Hennepin County, but I also work for Thomas Allen, Dakota County. I could pick my one location and look at my caseload just for that location by picking this one, versus which is going to give you, because you're logged in as that specific location anyways, it's going to give you the best information for your caseload.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thanks for being patient with me.
Certainly.
And you know what, you guys,
we're at past time.
Yeah, we're at time already. So I'm just going to say to everyone, thank you. We really appreciate your patience, and we really do appreciate the questions. I'm also going to say to you, if you have questions in the Q&A panel, if you've typed questions in and they weren't answered, please submit them on a help desk form so that we can answer them for you. And again, thank you very much for this time. We'll see you in another month, and we will take your comments back and discuss them and help them inform our decision making. So please know we appreciate it. We do listen to you, and we do share your thoughts with other folks in our agencies. So have a really good Friday, and we will talk to you again soon. I'm going to put myself on mute, Anna. You can stop recording, and I will stop sharing.